Welcome to the Straight Talk on Fleet podcast with Erin Gilchrist. Each week, Erin will be breaking down fleet management, trying to cut through the noise and get down to the real issues safety and operations leaders are struggling with every day. The goal will be to get to the bottom of how leaders can break down these silos of information, accelerate change management, how to use real-time, accurate data to drive massive efficiencies across fleet-focused business processes, and to elevate people's careers with emerging best practices. Now it's time for the Straight Talk on Fleet.
Hey, welcome Fleet community. We are back for another episode of the Straight Talk on Fleet podcast. I'm super excited that we've just hit 55 episodes here with Ernie today. It's wild. So I'm Erin. If you don't know me, I'm Erin Gilchrist, and I am the VP of Fleet Evangelism at IntelliShift. And what that means is I just get to do this, right? I'm a longtime fleet manager who has a huge passion for safety and sustainability and efficiency in fleets. And I just aim to bring my experience to the fleet community and help build conversation and community around these hot topics in fleets and help us as fleet leaders elevate our careers. So today's podcast is going to be fun. I'm thrilled to introduce our guest, Ernie Garcia. Welcome, Ernie. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ernie is the Director of Fleet Management and Business Systems at Gothic Landscape. Gothic Landscape is a family-owned and operated landscaping company. They're operating in California, Arizona, and Nevada, employing more than 2,300 dedicated landscape professionals. So excited to talk about all things fleet with Ernie today and learn a little bit more about him and what makes him tick. So again, Ernie, thank you for joining us. Just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about the role that you play at Gothic Landscape.
Sure. I am the fleet director and also director of business systems. I've been with the company about 5 years. I started off in Gothic as a corporate fleet coordinator. So I was the assistant to the person who was running the fleet. But I got promoted. I'm the first fleet director at Gothic Landscape, which is cool. We have about 1,000 trucks. We have 2,300 total assets, and we operate in 3 states. We have a construction division and a maintenance division, and we have about 5 fleet managers, 6 fleet admins, and over 20 technicians.
Wow, that is a lot to manage. And I think about vehicles versus equipment and how different that is. So I love the mixed fleet idea and the challenges that must bring because it just, keeps you busier, right? So talk a little bit about how your fleet is structured at Gothic, so that management structure around the assets and the equipment.
Sure. So we have a lot of yellow iron, lots of mowers, lots of what we call light duty trucks. Those are our bread and butter units, but we also have semis, we also have dump trucks. We have this cool thing called the rock slinger in our Arizona branch, which is takes a ton of maintenance. We are 100% managed in-house, which is a challenge in itself. And we are actually a decentralized company. So we provide we manage by a servant leadership structure. I work as a support system to the fleet managers. So I try to bring them the facts. I do all the research. I try to do the deep dives, and then I bring them everything, and we make a decision as a collective versus us just pushing stuff down to them. It's a challenge, but what is the biggest benefit of it is when it sticks very well because everybody has that buy-in. So whether it be operations managers or the executive team or the fleet managers, everybody seems to come together when it comes to the final decision, which makes things work really, really well long term.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that structure. I think being a corporate fleet leader for so many years, it was like pushing big boulders uphill, no pun intended since we're talking about landscaping. But I felt like that consistently and trying to get that buy-in from the operational teams around how much it was costing them to run their fleet operation. And if run well, it could improve their profit margin. And it was just, we got there, but it was slow and it was hard. I like the fact that you guys are doing a decentralized model, so to speak, where it forces you as the person who is identifying the risks and the issues to work with those folks and for them to work with you to come to more of a collaborative decision-making process, to kind of achieve your goals. That's super interesting. And for those listening out there, I think those are some great points about how collaboration and breaking down silos really does change the trajectory of your success. So really cool stuff. So on that note, about just those day-to-day challenges, you can talk about challenges you have today, challenges are coming down the pike, but what are you facing? What gaps are there? Talk a little bit about, kind of what's keeping you up at night.
Well, this is kind of a cookie cutter answer, but the safety of our team members is always number one. We always want to make sure everybody returns home safely to their families. So if we're talking about outside of the safety factor, we have a very diverse fleet. So our fleet is it differs between our divisions and then also between our regions. So some of the equipment that works well in California may not work well in Nevada or Arizona. The environment is just different. So we have to specialize the fleet in each region. So that's a challenge in itself. And then when you talk about software or technology that supports that fleet in those regions, now we have to have a much more customized solution. So it's very hard to find those types of things that fit those big different factors. It makes it a challenge, but it's also fun when you do find that one thing that makes everything kind of come together. And we try to target like low effort, high impact, items that are going to make a big difference with the company. And I want to say that one of the biggest challenges we had when coming into my role was getting the fleet managers to trust me. I wanted them to believe that things were going to be a little different, and that they had an advocate for them at corporate, that they had somebody on their side who wanted to push their initiatives as well and wanted to push what they believed was the right path. So sometimes I have to break bad news, but most of the time it's something that they want and it is something that they need, and they're usually pretty excited about it.
I love that. And I love the word advocacy and trust, both really important, but not easy, right? To gain that trust. And when I think about the role that sort of like, I know that data solves issues, data tells stories, data can be trusted, if given, if coming from the right source and then stewarded properly. So talk about how some of the challenges around bringing in, sourcing and bringing in that data so that you can be their advocate, share out what you're seeing, look at analysis to help them identify areas of improvement. How are you tackling that today?
Well, so we recently replaced the FIM system, and we are now gathering so much more data from our units that we didn't have in the past. So we were managing things from a very high level, and now I get to do deep dives into major issues, whether or not this specific fuel pump goes out at a certain mileage or, things of that nature. But it is, I'm very KPI driven, so I had to learn how the equipment works and how the equipment is used in the field, and how they're repaired and replaced and those types of things. But what I get at an advantage of is being able to break down that data and put it into something that's a little more digestible for everybody to understand, and then say, hey, look, here are the big problems. Since I've became fleet director, we have lowered our indirect costs, our shop costs, by 2 points.
Wow, that's huge, especially with a fleet your size and the diversity of that fleet. Wow, are you an analyst? Because I think it seems like you'd have to be, or you have to have someone on your team who's helping you look at all this data and analyze it and make sense of it, and then be able to give it back to your teammates out in the field in a way that they can understand and digest. So do you have someone helping you out with that?
I do and I don't. I credit my management team. I've had two managers since I've been here, and both of them were very analytically driven. They pushed me. I basically had to become an expert in Excel and stuff like that to be able to do what we did, and I had to start like taking a look at things differently than what I had in the past. So I was kind of pushed into it, but at the same time, like I enjoyed it. So now when when I have these conversations at an executive level, I can hold my own, and I can understand what they're saying, and then also break down in a little bit more of a simpler form. When I speak to the fleet managers, I'm like, look, this is why we need to do this, and this is the reasoning for it, and this is what management would like to see. But you are going to be you're going to reap the benefits of this.
Right. I mean, that's a change management strategy in and of itself. So I think that change management is super hard as well. And especially in a sort of a decentralized model like you have. So, are you getting to go out and spend time in the locations, talk to the fleet managers, or is it coming from like your office to theirs? How are you handling that change management part of sharing this information and data with them? What's your approach to that? I think a lot of our listeners can learn something from that.
I spend a good amount of time talking to the fleet managers regularly. I probably talk to every fleet manager. Some of them I talk every day. A few of them I talk once or twice a week. But I usually know what's going on at the branch level, or I try to at least. I will make the effort to go to the branches regularly. So I try to spend time at the branch, try to make sure I get as much face time with them. We have a couple of fleet managers who are very strictly like mechanics, and just very men of few words. I want to turn a wrench, and I want to be left alone type of thing. So
Sure.
they won't talk until you're right in front of them. So, and then when you get right in front of them, they're telling you about all of these things that are potential issues, or like it could be issues down the line, or like are issues now. And I have my workload now for the next few weeks of like how can I make these things better for them.
I mean, I love that. Just knowing that going out into their environment and speaking their language and spending time with them not only builds that trust that you were talking about, but it also gives you a chance to hear things you'll never hear unless you're sitting with them and in their workspace, sort of on their turf. So I think that's a great lesson learned there for fleet managers. I remember when I was running my fleet, I would have my suppliers do ride-alongs with my technicians quarterly because it gave them a chance to see the driver's work environment and what they're doing as technicians and how their vans were sort of mobile workstations. And then I made them report back, like, what did they see? What did they observe? And then how can they, as a provider for us at that time, bring some new ideas, solutions to the table that could help improve safety and efficiency. So you're kind of taking that same approach with that hands-on learning experience with sort of all levels of the organization. I commend you for that because it takes time, right? You got to get out of the office and go there. So it's a time sucker, but I think what a huge benefit to have an opportunity to like I said, get on their turf and hear things in their terms face to face. That's an excellent approach. So I think about change management and process management. So when you think about how you measure success, like, you said you came down 2 points in your operational expense. I mean, that's success, right? But what other like KPIs and things are you using to measure your success and that you can share out with your teams out in the field to help them keep their finger on the pulse of, continuing to reach goals and initiatives for your organization?
Yeah, this is actually a pretty fun answer. So since moving to our new fleet management system, we started measuring things like downtime and inspection rate and inspection compliance, DOT compliance, stuff like that. And what we did is we turned it into like a gamification. So we have a scorecard specifically for the fleet. Past due PMs, DOT inspections. We target utilization rates. We target downtime. So we have all of these metrics. I think there's about 10 of them that we score every single month. We pit them against each other, and then we also built up like this really cool shop trophy. There's a little bit of an incentive for their team with the technicians and stuff, where they get a visit for the Snap-on truck for the winner. And we have a really good system in place now. This is the first full year that we've done it. We did it last year, but we started it a little bit late, and this will be the first year that we've actually had a full year at it. And right now, our Riverside branch is beating out everyone. I mean, really, really big credit to him because he runs a very tight fleet ship. So his name is Randy, and he's awesome. So we'll see how it turns out at the end of the year.
Congratulations to you and Randy. That's such an awesome approach. Gamification is so valuable, and it's not all about spending a lot of money. It's like just that healthy competition always helps to drive down costs and improve on processes. I think that's also a great learning note for our listeners too, that sometimes it's just about identifying what's important, putting a metric around it. But that's a challenge if you don't have a good system to gather that data and to aggregate that data. So it sounds like you guys replacing your FMS was a huge opportunity for you to do all the more successful things that you're doing now. How do you think that gamification and that approach, that rewarding type of behavior modification process, how do you think that that is contributing to your overall success, like tangibly?
Well, we've seen the metrics improve, so things are getting better. We have seen a increase in efficiency. We are now tracking things we haven't tracked before, and we're really starting to see the benefits of that when it comes to like the lowering of the indirect costs. So
Perfect.
it's working. It's still a challenge. We're still not here near our targets of where we want to be, but we have a plan of how to get there and how to execute. So it's working really well right now.
That's excellent. And I love, a different way to tackle compliance. Every fleet leader like you that I talk to is like, what's your number one issue? Compliance. I mean, I don't care if it's inspection compliance, preventative maintenance, like on time compliance, DOT stuff, regulated stuff, unregulated stuff. Compliance is always the biggest challenge. And as you have new people come on board and folks retiring or just natural attrition, it's like starting over with telling that story of how important compliance is. And I think your structure of being out there in the field, communicating with your team, the KPIs, the contest or rewarding sort of environment that you're fostering, I think it helps get those new hires up to speed a little quicker because they're probably seeing things hanging in their branches. Or, I mean, is it like a contest sheet? Do they have a dashboard on their computer or phone that they're using? How are you sharing the metrics in a physical way with them?
It gets released every single month, and we send it out through email. But the fleet managers take it a step further, and then like some of them report it at a monthly meeting and show the branch where they're standing, and then also explain how the metrics work. We've seen a lot of that. One of the biggest things I think the thing I think has one of the biggest impacts was we tried to give technicians some recognition. They are the unsung heroes. They're the ones working out all the time, working out in the heat, and going out in the field to make these repairs. And we really wanted to give them a little bit of a spotlight. So it's an unscored metric, but at the very bottom of the scorecard, it shows who is your technician who touched the most vehicles this month, who had the most work orders, who resolved the most issues, who is your technician who just stepped up above the rest. And those names are put out there for the entire company to see when we send out that email. And, those are the people that are, may not have even considered an award would be possible in the past. And now hey, now I'm being recognized every month. And we also have a chance to win this award at the end of the year.
Yeah. And it motivates everyone around them to want to be excellent as well. Great environment. I love what you guys are doing out there. That's just phenomenal. So when you think about some of your more long-term initiatives, what comes to mind?
Right now, we are, like I said before, we're trying to hit the efficiency metrics and trying to really get the low-hanging fruit. we did this really great thing where we had this problem where we're tracking the in-use units versus the available units in the yard, and the fleet managers historically have tracked this through Excel. And all we did was, the credit to our fleet manager in LA, Walter Martinez. He came up with the idea, and I just kind of tried to figure out how we can implement it in the easiest possible way. And we took some status labels in the fleet management system, and we reworked them to be their tracking system. So now they can track it
Awesome.
through the fleet management system, and then auto report out to the operations managers, and to be able to see what's available now at a snapshot at a glance. And then I reworked some views that they have to be able to quickly like hit a button, and then now here's all your equipment, here's what's available, here's what's out in the field and being used. So we have small things like that, and then we have longer term goals. Like, one of the things we're working on right now is, we're trying to build a career path of education for technicians and for fleet admins. So it's in the beginning stages, but the fleet admins would essentially have a pathway to be educated to grow into like a junior fleet management role. And then we're working on the same thing for technicians who would be able to get certain certifications and be able to move through the ranks, and tier one, tier two, tier three technicians, and eventually become a shop manager or shop foreman, and and so on. So this is a Gothic is a great company to work for. They really, really try to foster the promote from within culture. We have like an actual initiative called Cultivate Your Potential, and we really try to push that. And I've seen people who started off as laborers, and they're now area managers, and we've had a great success. And I'm one of them. I started off as an assistant, and now I'm a director. So it's something that we really, really try to push and really try to instill in all of our employees.
I mean, we think about our most valuable asset, it's our people. And I love this cultivate your potential. It's such a positive, motivating term, first off. And kudos to Gothic for really being progressive as an organization and really taking, this idea of people leadership and advancing people seriously. I think not only does that build retention, which is so tough in this work environment right now, you're incentivizing people to grow with your company and to be motivated to move up. So they're going to do their best. So you're incentivizing people to do their best work all the time, because if they're thinking about what do I want to do next, maybe I want to get off this mower, maybe I want to move into a leadership role, etc. What a great way to drive retention and drive culture, real culture, in your organizations. And then I think the other piece too is like attracting new talent. There's such a shortage of workforce in general out there. But when you can have your workforce going out and telling their friends and family about how great it is to work for Gothic, then you're going to have more people applying. You're going to be leagues above some of the organizations out there that are really struggling to find people at all levels to hire today. So kudos to you guys, and kudos to Walter on the utilization piece. I mean, what an awesome kind of switch in process to make things more automated. I feel like anytime we can automate things, and you've been doing this since you got into your role, is trying to make things more efficient, replacing your FMS, and then, this idea of being able to make it easier to identify asset utilization and report on it. That's going to be a huge win now and into the future for you guys. Really good stuff. Wow. I want to come and work for Gothic. So I'm just kidding, IntelliShift. I love it here. I'm not leaving. But it sounds like a great place to work. So, on the note of sort of leadership and education and promoting from within. So you have a lot of certifications, my friends. You're like CAFM, CAFS, your DOT compliance, your OSHA 30 hour. I have that too. From my warehousing days, and brought that into fleet leadership as well. Talk about how those have come into play in your career today.
Well, like I said before, Gothic invests in their employees, so they helped me. They've set some goals, and they said, hey, like we would really like to see you take the initiative, and I ran with it, and I tried to get as many of these under my belt as possible. and I apply them every single day. I mean, credit to NAFA CAFM program. It's very challenging, and it's the most beneficial. I use a lot of what I've learned in that program regularly. I'm very proud to be a part of NAFA's program, and I'm by no means is it easy. So it was a big accomplishment, a big feather in the cap when you can get that done.
Yeah, congratulations. It is tough, and I've been a part of the NAFA organization for over 20 years, and from events, networking, benchmarking with other peers, meeting organizations that I ended up working with, et cetera. It's been a great support for me as a fleet leader as well. So, but congrats on all your certifications and all the amazing things that you're doing at Gothic. I think from automation to people leadership to getting out there and being in the trenches with your team. That's just such an excellent approach. I love what you're doing, Ernie. I love how you're doing it. It is an inspiration to everyone out there, whether you're in operations leadership, you're a safety manager, whether you're a fleet leader. I think there's so many things that you said today that people can take with them and do something differently in the way that they are leading their fleet. So thank you so much. And before we close out, I'd love to hear, do you have any advice for fleet leaders coming into the industry, maybe new to their role? You've come up through the ranks and doing something very different than where you started. So what advice could you give to a new fleet leader coming into the industry today?
Sure, yeah. Number one, I would say understand your fleet needs. No two fleets are the same. What works for them may not work for you, but a version of that solution might. Network and talk to other fleet professionals. The fleet industry is very welcoming, very knowledgeable, and if you make the effort, they're more than welcome to share what they have going on, and one of those solutions or a version of that might work for you. So that would be my number one recommendation.
Excellent advice. As well, Fleet Community brought it again today with some super hot takes from Ernie. Thank you, Ernie, for being here. Thanks for our listeners. I'd love to hear what everybody else is doing out there, but I can tell you that if you listen to this particular podcast, there's so many great takeaways. I'd love to hear what's going on. Message me, come on my podcast, comment, like, subscribe, wherever you find your favorite content. And like we love to say on the Straight Talk on Fleet, keep it real, keep it safe for fleet's sake. And Ernie, thank you again. We loved having you.
Thank you.